I made 2026 one of the greatest years of my life. I created 2 companies and I finally exited one, found and married the love of my life, and we finally sold everything in Austin, Texas, and we are traveling the world right now, being in Japan. And I really did all that by actually focusing on myself. Everyone can do what I did this year and way more by just focusing on the right things. Not just staying focused in general, but staying focused on the things we want. Everybody wants to make 2027 the best year ever, but we don't really know how. We all hear the basic things like dieting, exercising, focus on your craft, take walks, drink water. And this is great things to practice, don't get me wrong. But no one really tells you how to focus on yourself and how to put yourself above everyone else in order for you to move forward towards a direction. Imagine you try to warm yourself up, and instead of doing the obvious, you focus on one fire and you cultivate that effectively. You go and you create 10 fires around you that you put a little bit of attention on each of them. Not only that you would waste all your energy, but it just wouldn't work. Focusing on one thing and doing that effectively is a very powerful art. For some odd reason, we feel like quantity is always better than quality. I want you to think about the phrase focus on yourself. What is the first thoughts that pass through your mind? Are you trying to get over someone, be the best version of yourself, make $1 million? What is your vision for any of this? What is the direction that you have in your mind? Because if you don't have a direction for any of this, and if you don't have an actual system that you will follow, you will just do nothing. Even though you have the goal and the aspiration and makes you excited to do it, you will not take action. To make this concrete, I want to tell you an example from my life. When I was trying to start my first business, I knew that I wanted to create something on my own. I wanted the freedom financially, but I didn't know how or where can I get that. Of course, all the information is out there, so I was able to learn and collect and do everything that I can. But the issue is that I wasn't focused. When you do multiple things, for example, I was trying to open 3 different companies at the same time, that I wasn't really learning anything. It felt like I was running like a chicken with my head cut off. The most important part that changed was me saying no. The problem that most people have in 2026 is that we have too many opportunities. Like there is too many competing things that we can do, from moving towards our addiction with content, to taking another small part-time job, to going out with friends. There is so many competing priorities and things that we can be doing. When I say that you are focused on one thing, it doesn't mean that you do one thing. I'm still focusing on myself as a whole with body, mind, and spirit. So I will work out in the morning, I will have a better diet, I will focus on my career, I will create the right relationship with my partner, and she will be my #1 priority. But all these things are neatly stacked within focusing on myself and the direction that I want to go. So what helped me was when I created boundaries of what is within the area of focusing on myself and what is outside of this area. For example, on this season right now, spending a lot of time with my family is outside of the focus, but spending a lot of time, high quality time with my wife is within. Every season can be different and every person can have different priorities. But until you create this boundary around you, then you don't have focus and you're not moving towards a vision or a direction. Something that I'm coming back from my Greek philosophy training back in the day was Platon cave. So this was more like a mental experiment that prisoners were inside a cave and the only thing that they had was a fire. And they were looking at shadows and they thought that the shadows is what is reality. Now, at some point, a prisoner finally breaks free and is able to get out of the cave. At this point, I want you to be thinking about yourself, because it's an analogy that comes back to your life. When the prisoner breaks free, he can actually see the fire that was casting the shadows, and that actually hurts his eyes. And right after that, the prisoner is able to get out of the cave, and because of the sunlight, that is actually blinding for him and hurts his eyes even more. And obviously over time, his eyes completely adapt and he's able to see trees, people, actual objects. So he doesn't see shadows anymore, but he sees the real world. So he finally understands that prisoners, they just see illusions, they see the shadows. But the funny thing is that when he returns to tell them, they actually make fun of him and they think that he's just crazy. What this shows me, getting out of the cave and seeing the reality of who you are which is the equivalent of focusing on yourself and growing, is isolating sometimes. Most people just prefer the shadows, prefer where they are and what is the current view of reality. If there is one thing you can take from this video, is creating the boundary. Be able to understand what it is within the focus area of the current season and what is not. Actually say no to everything that is not inside this area and just focus. And being alone is actually not always the answer. It's about finding what is the right thing for you. Thank you guys. I hope this makes sense. I'm excited to see you on the next one.